Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hopelessly Gifted podcast. My name is Mark Talaga, and today we are joined by Gilda Evans. This is going to be a fun one today. I could just feel it, not only because I really like Gilda and the chat that we had prior to our recording, but because I think her story of what she has created in her life to meet some of the needs of the people she cares most about, as well as herself, is a very inspiring one. And so I think a lot of parents out there today are going to hear a message of hope for sure. That's kind of why I want you to listen in all the time anyways. But also a message of sometimes what we have in life is not what we need. And there are ways that we have to go and make it. And so let me introduce Gilda without further ado. Gilda Evans is a passionate advocate, dedicated parent, and the visionary founder and president of ARP, the Autism Resource Project. She also hosts and produces the Autism Resource Podcast. Driven by her personal journey as the mother of a child on the autism spectrum, Gilda launched ARP to bridge the gap between families, professionals, and the critical resources they need but often struggle to find. Through ARP, Gilda and her colleagues are creating a trusted platform that elevates the voices of experts, educators, service providers, and parents, offering practical insight, heartfelt stories, resources, and hope. Her mission is simple but powerful: to make navigating the neurodiverse disabled journey less overwhelming and more empowering for every family. Welcome, Gilda.
Thank you, Mark. I am so happy to be here.
Oh,
I
good.
had a great time at our earlier pre-podcast conversation, and I know we will have many more conversations after this, but I am very, very happy to be here talking with you today.
Oh, good. Oh, good. I'm very excited. So let's start off with you. I think that's very important to start with. Tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into being a part of this autism journey and creating this amazing resource.
Well, I can tell you, if you had asked me, a few decades ago, if I would be here talking with you about this today, I would have said, no, what? Are you kidding me? No. My background is media and entertainment. Um, and then, I started having kids and ended up as a single mom. And my third one came along and at about 3, 4 years old was diagnosed with autism. And like many other parents who get that diagnosis and have that deer in the headlights, what now stare on their face. I was the same. And I thought, well, all right, here we are, here I am. I've got this amazing, wonderful young man that I have been blessed to have, has been brought into my life and brought into my life for a reason, I'm sure. And now what? So I started the journey and I started trying to figure out, what to do, how to apply, who to ask, how to get what I needed for my kid, for his education, for his well-being, for life in general. And like so many parents here, whenever they ask for something for their kid with, as we say, special needs, they usually hear, no, we don't do it that way. We've never done it that way. Sorry. And I was the parent when confronted with that response said, well, then you know what? This is going to be the first time. Work with me here.
There we go.
There's a first time for everything. And quite frankly, very often it was. But, I watched all the other parents around me going through the same ordeal and going around in circles and not getting the supports and services that they needed for their child. And unfortunately, when that happens, the one who ends up suffering the most is the child because they're not getting what they need. And just a little side note here. What would this world be like without neurodivergent individuals who got the support that they
Right.
needed in order to become the whoever they became and thrive, right? People like, oh, I don't know, Elon Musk, Bill Gates,
Mhm.
Steve Jobs, Walt Disney, Albert Einstein. That we would have a very different world, a very different
Right.
world. So anyway, fast forward, my kid was diagnosed around 3, 4 years old, and he's 28 now. And so what that tells you is I spent the better part of a quarter century doing battle with the schools and the government offices, and here in California, where I'm located, the regional center system. And about 7 years ago, I had this epiphany, and I thought, all right, why for this enormous population? And when I say enormous, last year, according to the CDC, just here in the United States, 1 in 30 got newly diagnosed with autism. Now, that's just the ones who were diagnosed, because many go undiagnosed. And that doesn't count any of the other neurodivergent diagnoses, right?
Right.
Such as dyslexia, dysgraphia, ADHD, Tourette syndrome, so on and so on and so on. Nor does it count the physical disabilities. If you factor those in, you're probably one in 20, 1 in 15.
Sure. Even conservatively. Yeah.
Maybe less conservatively. Yeah. And then if you extrapolate that to a global population, it's 80 million plus diagnosed with autism. And throw everything else into the barrel, you're talking about roughly 1 billion people. So that, again, is roughly 1 in 8 people on this planet who identify as neurodivergent or disabled in some way. Now let's throw in their parents and their caregivers and their service providers and their educators. This really touches everybody. I mean, for my nonprofit organization, we'll often have gatherings and fundraisers and so forth. And I always do my little talk, to the crowd. And I always ask the same question, and I've always gotten the same response. The question I ask is, who, by a show of hands here, is either related to, works with, knows, loves someone who is neurodivergent or disabled? I have rarely had a single person in the audience not raise their hand. Sometimes one or two don't, and I'm just saying, oh, it's because they're shy.
Maybe, right. They don't want to put it up. Yeah.
Right. So then why, for this enormous population that touches everyone, was there no central knowledge and resource base that a parent, caregiver, service provider, educator, individual themselves could go with an issue, question, problem, and at least find the beginnings of the answer that they're looking for that is vetted and reliable?
And so enter ARP.
So enter ARP. I thought, well, I guess it doesn't exist. And let me tell you, when you're a parent, let alone of a neurodivergent child, you don't have time to be a detective and go culling through 250 websites looking for what you're looking for. And then if you find something, is it really what you're looking for? Is it reliable? Is it a scam? You have no clue. So I thought, well, I'm going to do a podcast. I have a media and entertainment background. How hard can it be?
Right? It's really easy, listeners. Everybody should do it. No, it's a pain. At times.
And I also had no budget, but I'll figure out a way to do it without a budget. No problem. So I set out on this quest about 7 years ago to create this knowledge and resource base for our community. Because if I had had that when my son was first diagnosed, man, I would have thought I found the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Right.
So little did I know at the time that most podcasts fail in the first 10 episodes. I don't know if you know that, Mark, but they do.
Hey, all right. It makes me feel a little better. But yeah, I can imagine why,
Yeah. And but I guess I must have done something right, because we just recorded our 200th episode.
Amazing.
And we're downloaded in over 13 countries. But what that says to me is the incredible hunger and need that there is out there for this kind of resource. And then about, a little before last year, I had another epiphany, and I thought, well, podcast is doing great, so I guess it's time for me to do more. So the Autism Resource Podcast, you're right.
I'm laughing. Are you a masochist? What's going on?
Yeah, I know. I think so. Um, but the Autism Resource Podcast became part of the Autism Resource Project 501(c)(3).
Amazing.
And we, together with my board, who I am so blessed to have the people that I have on our board of directors and our advisory board, we are in the process of, and it's still in development, but we're getting there. We're pounding the pavement, raising the funds, getting there bit by bit, because as you know, technology is not cheap. But we are 100% virtual, and we are creating a first of its kind online resource hub for the neurodivergent and disabled communities. So
Incredible.
we are building that on 4 pillars, the podcast, of course, being one. We're adding to that a library which will contain webinars, articles, guides, difficult to find resources, that sort of thing. A community network where people will be able to not only connect in real time, but there will also be area specific listing of resources. So if you're in LA or New York or Chicago or Okoboji, Iowa, and you're wondering, is there an ABA provider near me? I need that. Or is there a conference going on that might be helpful in my area? You'll be able to find that information easily. And we will also be adding a marketplace that will have specific items that are geared for our community, that are reliable. Again, all of this will be vetted as best as we can. So we want it to be reliable. We want it to be trusted, and people to feel resourced. So in the marketplace, we will have things like, a book on autism or adaptive clothing or sensory items. You get the idea.
Right.
And at the heart of all of this, we are going to be developing what we are calling the ARP Navigator, which will be a very human-centric AI tool that will allow the user to interact on the website. So a parent comes on, and by the way, we also eventually will be making this available in various languages, have transcripts available. We want to make this as accessible for as many people as possible. So the user comes on, interacts with the AI, and let's say types in, my 5-year-old son just got diagnosed with autism and ADHD. What now? Help. And the AI will come back, ask certain questions. Okay, how old? What's the diagnosis? Where are you? This and so on and so forth. And actually help that user, that parent, whoever, create a game plan, create a
Right.
roadmap. It will pull from our resources on the site, and with very specific guardrails, to a limited extent from the internet, because we have to be very, very careful about that as
Of
well.
course.
But instead of just saying, okay, here's 250 URLs that you can go check out, good luck.
Right. Right.
It'll actually help them create a step-by-step process, and it'll be iterative. So, the parent, the user can come back and say, well, now this happened. All right. So what do I do now? Or this changed. What do I do now?
So, I mean, what you're talking about is a vast undertaking. The fact that you got nonprofit status and you have a board of people working with you, and the question that's burning in the back of my mind is really more about you, Gilda, than anything, because what you've accomplished is something that many parents that are out there listening wish they could accomplish on some level and in their own way for their own child. Can you speak to what got you through those tough moments, how you kept moving forward, how you fought against the bureaucracy and red tape and the feeling like there was nothing out there that would help you with your son?
That's a really good question. And I would be lying if I said there weren't some dark moments
Yeah.
where you just feel like the clouds are closing in, and my gosh, what am I going to do? How am I going to get through this? But then you do,
Hmm.
because you simply tell yourself, I mean, at least that's what I told myself, you know what? There is no other option.
Hmm.
This is not a no-win scenario.
Right.
There is a way, and I will find it. And if I can't find it, I will create it.
Hmm.
I will make it happen. And I will tell you that my son with autism, my and he doesn't mind me telling this story because it's an incredible story of persistence and perseverance and hope. He was, as I said, diagnosed around 3, 4 years old, and he was, verbal and incredibly bright. Oh my gosh, he's incredibly bright, and and affable, and would stand up and give book reports in front of class, and that sort of thing. But then, every child, every case, every individual is different in terms
Right.
of their comorbidities and their presentations and so forth. And in his case, when pre-puberty struck, um, this wonderful verbal affable child, within a 2-month period,
Hmm.
onset with dysgraphia, Tourette syndrome, selective mutism, and severe OCD. So, not only the challenges he was facing with his autism, which were mostly pragmatic, but then all of this other stuff heaped on top of it that basically engulfed him in this cocoon.
Wow.
The writing went away, the speech went away, all these things that were suddenly happening to him in his body that
Right.
were really quite overwhelming. And when you're in that position, all you want to do, is help your kid and, find the answer and help them work their way through it. And I have to tell you, um, the the resolutions I was offered by the medical community, I found lacking at best.
Hmm.
At least at that time, they wanted me to try certain medications. I did. They didn't work. The
Right.
the side effects were just not, far outweighed any benefits. Um, and we tried various other therapies and things like that, which helped to a certain extent.
Right.
But I have to say, the thing that I think helped the most was simply being there for him,
Hmm.
having him know that that I was there, that I supported him, that he wasn't broken. I was there to help him and to support him to become whoever he wanted to become,
Right.
and to give him what he needed to find out what those things were that helped him communicate, that helped him function, that helped him feel at ease in his environment. And every single individual, every single child is going to be different. But it is so important, you parents out there, it is so important to listen to your child, to learn from them, to communicate with them, to give them the best possible opportunity to tell you what it is that they need, instead of having other people tell you what they think your kid needs.
Right.
And when that happened, we got through it. We worked through it. And I have to tell you, I credit him with his persistence, his determination, his intelligence. I give the vast lion's share of the credit to him for having gotten to the other side. And I'll tell you, I'll just funny story, because with the selective mutism, his voice basically was taken away from him. He would, very limited extent, he would talk to me, and his siblings even more so limited, his grandparents even more so limited, and that was about it.
Yeah.
But he was determined that he was going to get to the other side of this, and it started around 11, and when he was about 18 and a half, and things kind of started to settle down, and the brain settled down, the hormones started to settle down, all of that. I'll never forget this. We were at a Starbucks, and he actually went up to the counter and placed his own order, and I started to cry.
Oh, yeah, right. You got to
Right?
see it in action all of a sudden.
It was pretty funny. The barista kind
Yeah,
of looked at me like, yeah, hey, lady, I know our coffee's good, but hey. And I said, no, you don't understand. Just
right.
take an order. It's okay.
Yeah. My
you know,
gosh. No,
um,
and there's something in what you're saying that I want to underline for parents out there, because there, what you're describing is in just seeing that child as exactly who they are and exactly who they're supposed to be, but being in a world that doesn't necessarily fit, but knowing that you're going to find a way to create the best fit possible. Um, but there's this idea that you knew that no matter what happened, that you were enough, that what you were doing, just caring, being there, being determined to not give up. Did you ever doubt that? Did you ever feel like, am I doing enough? Is this enough? Is this not enough? Because I know parents out there that can feel that way.
of course I did. I wouldn't be
Yeah,
human if I didn't.
there we go.
Okay.
That's right.
Of course I did, but you persevere anyway.
Right.
Persevere anyway, and and hopefully, if you're fortunate enough to have a support system around you,
Yes.
because self-care is so important, and having your own support system is so important. There were times when I didn't, and I
Mm,
really felt the lack. But when I did, to reach out and to have people say you are enough and you are doing your best. It doesn't mean that you're perfect. It doesn't mean you won't make mistakes. Again, you wouldn't be human if that didn't happen. But it's about saying, you know what? I'm enough today. I'm doing my best today. And if I erred, if I did something that wasn't, 100% today, that's okay. I forgive myself, because you know what? You can't be 100% every day.
right.
you know you
Right.
simply reach for your best at that particular time and at that particular day, and just know that over the long run, in the big picture, you're going to get there, you're going to succeed, and so is your kid. You want to know where my kid is now?
Where?
He is in his own place, in his own apartment with support. He is actively pursuing animation and video game design,
All
and
right.
he is producing his own short documentary. I'm so proud of him. He's
That's
producing his
amazing.
own short documentary about, let's call it, the intersection of animation and neurodivergence.
Wow.
Basically, talking to other people, a couple of very well-known animators who were inspired by animated characters and series as a child, that motivated them to go into it as a career.
It's so fascinating to me, and just probably more evidence on the pile of doing this kind of work, where you see a child who struggles with something so severely like expression, verbal expression, emotional expression, written expression, and it feels like they're, never going to get there. And then all of a sudden, when they get what they need, when they feel supported, when they feel seen, that area of vulnerability becomes their greatest strength. And now he's all about expression through art and video games and documentary. How cool is that?
Absolutely. This kid who was nonverbal through most of his teen years. I won't say nonverbal. I mean, like I said, he did speak
Minimal, right?
very,
Yeah.
very minimally verbal through most of his teen years. Is now conducting interviews.
Wow. I
for,
love it.
for his documentary. So there's always a way. And even children who are nonverbal and who are given the opportunity to express themselves, whether it be typing or whether it be, in some other way, I mean, how many stories have you heard about these nonverbal young people who were suddenly given the opportunity to express themselves and wrote a book, for,
Yes.
for goodness sakes?
Yes.
um, because all of that is inside. All of that is inside them, and you just need to find the right way to help them get it out.
Yeah. And it's oh, the process. The process and the idea of holding on though, because it's a foundational thing of, if you know it's in there, and I always, we always say here at the practice, trust the mother's gut. If you know that your kid has something within them and it's in there, but it doesn't always come out, and everybody else might dismiss it and invalidate it, but you hold on to that place and they see you holding on to that place so they can internalize that it's in there as well. Don't let go of that, because again, developmentally speaking, over the course of a lifespan of a person, that can become the thing that is, what they make their career off of, or how they make their connections in life. I'm just in awe of what you were able to accomplish for your son and what he was able to do with that level of support, and how he worked as hard as he did. That's incredible.
Don't ever give up,
Yeah.
because there's something inside of everyone. There's something inside of everyone. And look, the way I look at it, I'll share something else with you in terms of my personal opinion, is that while I think that labels are okay, like autism or the autism spectrum, things like that, they give people maybe a 50,000-foot view, right,
Right.
of the challenges that person might be dealing with. Um, everyone there is individual, right? Everyone is so different. But hopefully, at some time in the not too distant future, those labels won't be necessary, and we will understand that we are all a part of the human spectrum.
Yeah.
I have never encountered a single person in my life, whether they identify as neurodivergent or neurotypical or whatever, who doesn't have their stuff, right? Their
Yeah.
faults, their foibles, their idiosyncrasies, their thing, whatever it is. It's just a matter of, where are you? Where do you vibrate? Are you ultraviolet? Are you visible? Are you infrared?
That's
Right?
right.
And it's just figuring out where that other person vibrates, and how they communicate and what support they need to build that bridge, right? and
Yeah.
and helping them build it.
And what you're talking about is how you look for that. If you're not looking for that, if you're not like consciously saying, who is this person? Who is this person I'm dealing with? What are they up against? Do I understand them as much as I possibly can in the context of our humanity together? Yeah, you can miss it. And you can maybe over rely on those labels, which do tend to flatten people or make them seem tiny from 50,000 feet up, like you say. I had an idea for your the next thing that you're going to undertake. You have the Autism Resource project. It's going to now be the Human Resource Project. I feel like you're going to just expand to all
There
of
you go.
humanity at some point, right? That's where
Well,
it's
that
headed.
that
Yeah.
is our hope. I mean,
Yeah.
we're starting out nationally here, in the U.S., but our hope eventually is to expand globally, because through the podcast, I've reached out to people in Australia and the UK and Spain, and all these different places, and the kinds of resources that we're offering, and what we're developing is something I think that is relevant everywhere.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Gilda, I'm just resonating with hope right now, and resonating, and I feel very empowered. And I hope some of the parents out there, or all of the parents out there, are feeling the same way I'm feeling, just listening to your story and what you've been able to accomplish. Where can people find you? How can they tap in to the Autism Resource podcast or the project? Tell us all about yourself that way.
Well, the best place to go, and our website is currently being revamped, but it's probably going to be an ongoing process anyway.
Always is.
Never ending. But the
Never.
best place to go is to our website, which is Autism Resource Project, AutismResourceProject, autismresourceproject.org. And from there, you can access the podcast. From there, you can see the latest in terms of what we're developing and what we've just added to the website. You can also donate if you are so moved by our
If you are
mission,
so inclined, yeah, it's a great cause.
and
Right.
so moved. You can do that. There's instructions on how to do that there as well. And if you want to listen to the podcast, and you like Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Amazon Music, we're there as well.
Incredible. Well, we'll have those links in the show notes as well so people can find them easily. Gilda, thank you so much for being with me today and being with our audience. It was a really wonderful opportunity to talk about a very, very important cause. And thank you for all the things you do.
Thank you, Mark. Oh, I also want to mention we are on social media.
Yes.
So people want to find us on Facebook, Autism Resource Podcast or Autism Resource Project. We are on Facebook. We're also on Instagram at the Autism Resource Project and YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. Yay!
Yay. Oh, that's the way of
which
things. I love it. Yeah.
which is at ARP Social. So I did
Great.
just want to mention that. And I want to thank you also, Mark, for this opportunity
Of
to
course.
come onto your podcast and to share about my journey and about ARP and have this wonderful discussion with you. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening. And we hope to hear from you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.